About US is a new initiative by the Washington Post to cover issues of identity in the United States. Look for the About US newsletter launching this winter. When I was 7 years old, my father packed our family into our blue minivan and drove 930 miles from our Illinois home to the Black Hills of South Dakota. From there, we traveled to Mount Rushmore and the Badlands. Then west, to Devil's Tower in Wyoming. I remember my 2-year-old brother pulling himself up to meet my face in his travel crib. My twin 5-year-old sisters struggling to retain their toilet training on long hikes. My mother cry laughing in terror over mules we encountered on the road. Every year for the next 11 years, my family vacations involved road trips across the United States, hitting national parks, battlefields, and historic sites. While my classmates got their hair braided in Cancun and friends bonded at beaches off Lake Michigan, my family hunted for Oregon Trail wagon ruts and traced Lewis and Clark's Expedition Trail. I didn't know it then, but my father, a Chinese-American immigrant, was working toward a goal he set after my siblings and I were born: drive to all 48 contiguous states. The people we learned about on the road didn't look like my family, but my father wanted us to understand the road other Americans traveled before they were considered truly American. He took us to reservations where Indians lost land and livelihood. We paid our respects at plantations and battlefields that saw countless casualties. We visited formerly segregated schools and churches that had been bombed. Trump could make visiting a national park more expensive than a Six Flags ticket. These national parks and sites, which would become less accessible if the Trump administration implements a proposal to increase entry fees, did more than history classes ever could. They made us feel American. When we were older and headed west to learn the history of Chinese Americans at Promontory Summit and Angel Island, it was within the context of the larger story of Americans who were abused by this country but rose in spite of adversity. We reached our 48th state, Washington, right as I was about to leave home for college, our family's unofficial deadline. What compelled my father to spend years driving across the country with 4 young kids? His answer was simple: I wanted you to know this country. This is your country. Born in poverty in Hong Kong shortly after his family escaped Communist China in 1949, my father immigrated to the States in 1968 at age 12. Did he ever feel unwelcome during our domestic travels? I probably should have, because I'm Asian American, he said after a long pause. But I didn't feel out of place because I looked at the American flag and thought it was my flag, too. Whether they look at me as American or not, I didn't care. I'm just as American as anybody else. His patriotism propelled him, but the National Park Service's low cost of entry made it possible for my frugal father to show us our country on his minister's salary. When we first started traveling 2 decades ago, most national parks were free or charged a fee of $5 or $10 for our family of 6 to enter in one car.